himself free. He's going to have to take a long one. Klein, step back, three for the tie. Oh! He's done it again! They get it to him. More in space. A burst of speed. A first down for Purdue. He's still going. More. Cuts back. Touchdown. Each one more.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Boiler Express podcast. This is the first episode of 2023. Actually, our first episode back since, I think, December 20th. So we're all excited to be back here. We are missing a couple guys tonight. Frank and Dylan just are unfortunately under the weather, battling some illnesses, unfortunately, some kidney stones.
Sounds like the whole state right now.
Right.
Everybody I know is sick right now.
Yeah. But they'll be back soon, hopefully. I know they were both really looking forward to tonight, getting to hang out with Trevor. But we'll have him back on here next week for another great episode. But super excited to be on here tonight with all of you guys. We've got a lot to talk about. We're gonna briefly touch on the Citrus Bowl. We'll briefly touch on Purdue basketball as we. Since we last met as well, talk about the stretch between A&M all the way up to Penn State the other night. Purdue football, coaching, and recruiting news. And we also got a great guest with us on tonight. We've got Trevor Peters, Purdue media relations guy. He's been around Purdue for a while now, and we just thought it'd be a great person to have on the podcast to kind of give us a perspective of things that we may not know about or get to see, and kind of what that side of things is like. So really excited to have Trevor on here. Trevor, we're super stoked to have you on here, and yeah, we're ready to go.
Thank you very much for having me. It's an honor, and means a lot you asked me. We'll see what I have to share. I'm probably not going to be as interesting as this one was, but I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Something else I forgot to mention as well, and the reason I'm unfortunately holding a spoon is that after our December 20th episode, we decided we're at 246 followers on our Twitter account, and we said, hey, if we can get to 300 by the time this episode airs, we'll drink hot sauce throughout the entire episode. And I said, 246. We might get there by January 10th. We might get close. Probably not, but we might get there. And then we got there in 2 days. We got there by like December 22nd or something like that. It was crazy how quick that changed. So first off, I guess thank you for everybody that's followed and joined along and has been listening. We really, really appreciate you guys, but also you suck, because out of all the choices we gave you, we were going to let our wives draw on our faces. We were going to dump ice water on ourselves. We were even going to wear IU apparel on this episode, and you chose hot sauce.
Thanks for putting that out there, Damon. Appreciate you.
Yeah. I didn't think through all these choices here. But
I'm glad we talked about that before we started doing it.
Right. But yeah, so every 15 minutes, we're going to be taking a spoonful, or these guys have shot glasses of hot sauce. And so before we get into anything else, let me go ahead and pull up my timer here. And
there's one on screen.
Oh, there's one on screen? Oh,
yeah.
Perfect.
Well, I've got one up in the top left corner.
Okay, perfect. All right. I don't even need to worry about that then. Okay, so you guys, I think your shots are already ready to go, but let me, oh God, that was a lot. Get mine. I was
better load it up, man. You're the reason we're doing this. You better do 2 spoonfuls.
I had major bubble gut before we all hopped on here. I was
very nervous.
Yeah, very
Trevor, if
nervous.
you have some in your fridge, feel free to join us too,
Yeah,
man.
you're more than welcome to join in.
Guests don't have to do this, right?
Right. Yeah, that was something that,
surprise.
Well,
You do.
I almost poured myself a glass of bourbon, but you guys, because you started to say shot of, and I'm like, oh, okay, we're gonna have some fun on this.
I won't turn down a glass of bourbon.
Yeah, like, I'll stick away from the hot sauce. That's you guys.
oh man. Yeah, I forgot I put that in the contract I sent over to him before.
Is it weird if I chase hot sauce with bourbon?
That just sounds like it's gonna burn all the time.
It sounds absolutely awful. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
going to work tomorrow.
before we get into our questions with Trevor here, boys, you've got your shots ready. I've got my spoonful ready here, and we'll go
There's
ahead.
like 2 drops in there, Damon. Come on.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I'll add some more on here. Let me.
You can tell, Trevor, this isn't a very organized broadcast right now.
What has he done? He's like, what have I done?
Yeah, I told you I was gonna pour hot sauce all over my desk, and I've got 2 spots on here. But, all right, boys, here we go. Bottoms up.
Cheers.
Oh man.
Ooh, that's a bad decision. Oh my gosh.
Oh man. That had a lot more punch than I thought it was gonna be, and I feel like unfortunately that 15 minutes is gonna go by a lot quicker than what I hoped for.
Well, let's get this going.
Yeah, Trevor. Again, appreciate you being on here tonight. Excited to get to talk to you and everything. So was just checking out some stuff before we had you on here tonight, and I was looking at your Twitter profile because I was sending you the questions that we had for tonight, and I saw one of the things on there was talking about The Price is Right, and I believe, let me pull it back up here so I get it correct. But Price is Right car loser. So I didn't know that you were on The Price is Right, so I would love to know more about that.
Yeah, it's so when I was a kid growing up, it was my favorite show, and I grew up in just northeast side of Indianapolis, and so at 11 o'clock in the morning it would be Let's Make a Deal, 12 o'clock would be the price, or 10 o'clock would be Let's Make a Deal, 11 o'clock Price is Right, 12 o'clock the noon news. And growing up when I was a kid, I would if I was homesick from school or over the summers, I'd make it my ritual every day to watch Let's Make a Deal, The Price is Right, and then the noon news. And that's kind of how I fell in love with news and broadcast journalism. But I'd always watch Bob Barker and The Price is Right. And so and growing up, my parents knew that, and so they told you had to be 18 years old to be on The Price is Right. And they promised me when I turned 18 for my birthday, they'd take me out there. So that was, it was 20. I went out there in 2015. I was 20 at the time. They waited a couple years, and we did Let's Make a Deal and Price is Right, and it's free tickets. So if you're ever in LA, if you're ever in Southern California, you can go online and request them.
I didn't know they were free. That's awesome.
That's cool.
And so how it works is you get in line and you have every person has a 15-second interview with a producer. And these producers have been interviewing people for years, and they know who's going to be good, a good contestant, however they act, what they do, what they say. So I had my interview with the producer. Told him I was a Purdue student. Told him I carved or scheduled classes around The Price is Right every day so I could watch. Had a picture of me as a baby watching Bob Barker, and I was the first thing called when they started running the show. So it was wild. I played for 2 bikes to get on stage. So you have to bid on the prize to get on stage. So there's 2 Schwinn bikes for $754, and I bid I think $725. I was about 20. I was like $25 under, and we got on stage and played for. They opened up the curtain there, and it was a Volkswagen Beetle. It was one of the new looking ones, kind of funky looking, but it was a car. And so I had known most of the games just from watching for years, but it was the first time they played it. It was a brand new game called the Card Game. Long story short, I bid way over and lost the car. I went to spin on the wheel. First spin was a nickel. Second spin was $1. So I went over.
Oh.
I was down there. So, but I have I have a pair of bikes here that really, really nice bikes that my wife and I will ride around. And that's my Price is Right winning. So I did lose a car on Price is Right, but yeah, that's a fun story. If you can ever go, it is an awesome experience. And they run it. They run it in if the show is an hour on air on what you're watching on TV, and they tape it like you're watching the show. So they'll take a 3.5-minute commercial break where the commercial breaks are.
Oh, nice.
Oh, cool.
Drew Carey was cool. Wayne Brady was cool. Let's make a deal. So it was fun.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, at least you can take solace in the fact that you can probably pronounce the word Achilles correctly. You know, yeah, that's Wheel of Fortune, I know, but I'm sure you.
That guy actually reached out to me after his name's Julian Betts, and he reached out to me after I was on The Price is Right, and you can only be on one game show every 5 years. It's some clause. I don't understand it, but he reached out to me about he was also I think studying communications at IU and just talking about stuff and then our experiences. So yeah, I talked to the guy.
Cool.
I didn't know what was going through his mind, but I talked to him.
That's awesome. And so, yeah, you went to Purdue, obviously studied communications. So we've talked to guys before that like Markel Jones wasn't really a Purdue guy before he got to Purdue. Then as a player, obviously, he enjoyed the program and continued to follow the team and everything afterwards. Matt Painter was an IU guy growing up and then went to Purdue as well. So were you a Purdue guy growing up, or did you start off an IU fan, transition, or how did that kind of happen?
Yeah, so I'm a third generation Boilermaker. So my grandfather, my grandpa, and my dad both went to Purdue. It was the only school I even considered. I applied to one school. I applied to Purdue, and I got in, and I accepted the next day. I don't recommend doing that. And so going into communication, it was, as you all know, and what our great university is known for is STEM, but the College of Liberal Arts and the Lamb School of Communication is a hidden gem at Purdue that not a lot of students know about, and our fast track student news and just hands-on learning with the faculty and everyone at the Lamb School is fantastic. Named after Brian Lamb, the founder of C-SPAN, and he lets me back to the students and to the university. So
there's a big C-SPAN building on the north side of town, off Cumberland Avenue and Kent Avenue.
Yeah, and the archives are there. So we have really, really great resources and faculty and connections to Brian Lamb, and he does internships with students a lot. So, but I knew I always wanted to get into news, and of course, in state you hear about Ball State and the Letterman folks up there, and then IU's has a strong media school as well. But at Purdue, you're able to stand out, and that's what I really liked about the program, was that I was able to make a name for myself and have opportunities that not a lot of students got to have. So I was interviewing Mitch when I was a sophomore. I was interviewing Painter and Hazel at the time, and it was just really, really cool opportunities that if you were if one of dozens and dozens at Ball State, you're not going to have. And being at a big school carries a lot of weight. So love that opportunity. It was fantastic, and really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, it's cool to know about that history and everything, to know more about the communications program, because like you said, it's a hidden gem. I didn't know about a lot of that. I had no clue about the C-SPAN connection there, but that's really cool. And then so to kind of piggyback off of talking about communications and everything, being somebody that's live a lot, there's anything can happen when you're live. Funny things, crazy things, whatever. What's like your funniest, memory that you have on air? It can be the funniest, the craziest, like most wild thing that's happened to you while you're on air live.
Well, I'll say that a lot happens in commercial breaks. A lot. People running in, things coming into the studio, conversations that you probably should not be having when you have a microphone on. I mean, that's how you like mic slip things. It's because your TV anchor that you're watching is in those commercial breaks talking about things they should. But for me, after I left Purdue, after I graduated, I stayed in town at WLFI affiliate, market 187 out of 207. So almost as small as you can get as far as TV markets go. If you think New York 1, LA 2, Chicago 3, all the way down to somewhere in Montana is 207. So West Lafayette's pretty small. It's an interesting TV market because it is, if you live in Tippecanoe County, you get NBC, ABC, and Fox traditionally from Indianapolis. So the CBS affiliate, WLFI, is who you'd get. And so the ratings for WLFI are really good because if they want local news, they turn that on. But also it's a small market, so small staff, small budget. There was a morning I was anchoring with Gina Quattrochi, long time. She's fantastic. She was awesome. But she had called, or she was off. It was a Monday morning, and I went to my wife's family's house, and we were down there. Came back. I had to wake up 2:30 in the morning. It was a morning and noon anchor. But Gina was off, so it was just me. And I got food poisoning or something.
Oh no!
We had, it was just me. So and the news had to go on.
Get a power on, yeah.
Power on. So I vomited 4 times in commercial breaks, and you could see it. And you could see it on my face. Like,
oh no!
Worse as the more. And you could like if you were watching, you could tell that kid's sick. Like he is not feeling well. But that was probably the worst. It wasn't very funny, but I mean, we would do pet of the week on Friday afternoons, and we'd have these nasty animals from the animal shelter come in and just they would throw up in the basket. They brought them in, and I'd have to act like it was. And they get loose and they'd run. It was
chaotic. Trying to improv on the fly like that, I'm sure, is always difficult.
Not always a glamorous lifestyle, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like you're like, when you're puking like that too, like when you're dry heaving, you can like your eyes can get bloodshot, all that stuff. So that's the worst.
The makeup people were working overtime.
I had you wear makeup as an anchor, and so I had like makeup sweat running down my face. It was so bad.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, so kind of going along with that, Purdue folks are familiar with your story. Went to Purdue, went into TV, ended up moving away, and now you're back working media relations. And someone else who's went to Purdue and now works in town and serves the city. What's that feeling like, to come back and work for a university or work in a town that's so instrumental in kind of your upbringing, shaping how you are?
Absolutely. Greater Lafayette, it's one of the best places you can live, work, play anywhere in the country. And so when after WLFI, I went to Cincinnati to continue my career. I was a reporter and anchor at the Fox affiliate in Cincinnati, and I was increasingly homesick. Cincinnati's a great town. Oh my God, I'm a Reds fan. I've been a Reds fan my whole life. I lived in between the ballpark and Paul Brown Stadium. I was there for the Super Bowl run. It was just it was just such a cool town. Good food, good beer, good everything. Awesome town, but my heart was somewhere else. My wife and I got married. She was finishing her PhD, and so we lived apart for nearly a year. When I would go back to Indiana on weekends, we don't flip weekends back and forth, but just grew increasingly more homesick. And it was, thank goodness, it was the COVID year that I missed all the basketball games. And then in 2021, I missed all and I hadn't missed a men's basketball game since 2012. So it was,
wow.
I would come back for football games because there was only 6 or 7 of them. But other than that, it was just really, really a bummer. My heart was at Purdue.
Yeah.
My heart was back in Indiana. And so when my wife graduated, we were able to, she got a job at Riley Children's Hospital downtown. And I knew it was time to get back home. My ultimate goal all along was to work in Indianapolis and be an anchor at a TV station in Indianapolis. But the more we got talking, the more, I mean, we want a family. We want to not work holidays. And in TV, you're working holidays, you're working
holidays.
7 p.m. on a Saturday. I mean, and when it's not as glamorous as people think it is. And you're covering tough stuff. And I mean, the pay's not great. And ultimately I wanted a better quality of life.
I understand all those things.
Yeah. and I think the thing is, I think so many of us are right now where it's like we've come through a pretty tumultuous 2-3 years, and the quality of life is far more important than paycheck. And whatever, living where you want to live is putting your roots down is important to people. So and employers are starting to see that. But Purdue was on the university side. I had worked with WLFI with the media relations team. And they were expanding and reached out to me about a role, and it kind of just fell in line, and it was good timing. With my wife graduating, we were able to move back. So it's been fantastic, everything I could have wanted, and we couldn't be happier because this was the first Thanksgiving and Christmas I had off.
That's awesome.
I work in public service in the city, so I understand those. It's nice having those holidays off and the weekends off when you get the opportunity to.
You get it.
Yep. Well, we have to do our shot for a second, so
15
seconds.
Dude, I had a little burp after I drank water, and all I could just taste was this hot sauce. This is gonna be.
My stomach hasn't stopped churning, so this is fun. Yay!
Go.
So, what is it in media relations at Purdue? Like, can you explain that job a little bit, and then kind of what you enjoy about it?
So, I am essentially taking great things about Purdue to media across the country.
Okay.
State, local, national, whatever it may be. So I act as the deputy spokesman. So I'm the number 2 under the spokesman for the university. So all media relations funnels through our office. So whether it's a major announcement like presidential transition, or whether it's some awesome cancer drug that the FDA just approved from a Purdue researcher, or whatever it may be, it's my job to promote and to pitch. We also deal with crisis communication, glamorous stuff as well.
Yeah.
And all media requests come through our office.
Okay.
So whether it's a request to speak to or when it was Mitch, it comes to us, whether it's for the College of HHS, engineering, agriculture, whatever it may be. And our office also sends out and distributes press releases too. So all communication from the university kind of runs through us. And I focus more on the pitching and that aspect of it to get major national media placements. The Wall Street Journal.
Kind of be like, hey, look at this.
Exactly. And the good thing is, I mean, I don't have to pitch too hard because Purdue is so great and people know the brand, and it's been built into a world-class R1 university that people know and respect. And so when an email comes in that a Purdue researcher has done blank, they know it carries weight. Purdue name.
The name kind of precedes itself, for lack of a better way to put it. And correct me if I'm wrong, did Mitch go to PRF, the Research Foundation?
He is still on he held the position even when he was president. He was the head of the board of PRF. So Mung had asked him to stay on with that role.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Cool. It's good to have him still within the university in some aspect and continuing to maintain the success that he's carried for the last 10 years.
And that's the cool thing is, I know he's 10 days in the job, but Mung is going. So Mitch got Purdue launched and it's taken us, but Mung's going to take us to space. I mean, he is.
Good.
The momentum is continuing. There is no other university like Purdue right now with the direction we're headed, the persistence and everything that we stand for in students and faculty and athletics and everything. It's such a good time, and I don't say that blowing smoke up here. And as an employee,
I know simply alone, a lot of parents are super happy because we've had 11 years or whatever of a tuition freeze, and that in itself puts Purdue on a map when everybody else is juicing tuition up 10 to 15% in the last 10 years to not raise it at all.
The demand for Purdue degree has never been more. It starts with tuition that gets, the free speech commitment on campus, the acquisition of Purdue Global. Part of Purdue's land grant mission is to make an education accessible and affordable for all, and that means the millions of Americans that have partial college credit that maybe never finished a degree. We just had a commencement for Purdue Global on campus in October, and I mean it's
wow.
It's grandparents and in West Lafayette, it's parents typically sitting in the audience watching their kids graduate. In Purdue Global, it's kids in the audience watching their parents graduate. It's really cool, and
I love that.
It's completely different than any other experience, and being able to do it all online, it's a really, really neat. Purdue umbrella, and these people are getting a Purdue degree in the weight that it carries. So pretty cool.
Man, I love to hear about the Purdue Global, the commencement ceremonies, because that I think really encompasses Purdue in an essence, because those are the blue collar workers. Those are the people that had to work their tails off to get that degree while managing just life in general. I'm a recruiting coordinator, and so I talk to people on a daily basis, and people that are, in their 30s and 40s and going back to school and managing that, and a family of 5 and then just life in general, all the crazies that it throws at us. So that's awesome to hear about that. I think that's really cool, and I think that really just is Purdue in a nutshell right there. Those are the blue collar, nose to the grindstone kind of people. So that's really cool.
Russ,
how you feeling?
Yeah, I love that we waited till we had like our most professional guest from a media standpoint on to do something as dumb as chugging hot sauce. Like, I'm up here trying not to throw up and be professional. We're talking about like parents getting degrees while their kids watching, and I'm like,
I'm sweating.
I'm dying.
You're holding it together
So
well.
terrible. I'm not making it an hour.
You just next week with your guest, your major guest you got.
Take some notes from Trevor here, man. He was puking in buckets in between commercials, man.
Yeah.
So you gotta.
That's true.
We'll just hide your camera.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we can shut the camera off. We'll be all right. I'll mute it.
Yeah.
We'll be good. So, so we've talked a lot about your media time, a lot of your post Purdue time, but I want to go back to some of your time at Purdue. And one of the notable things that you were involved with at Purdue was the Glee Club. And so I was just interested in, I've listened to you talk about it a time or two and some of the trip you've taken. But I was just interested to hear, what was your favorite destination or maybe one of the coolest destinations you got to go to or be a part of with the Glee Club?
Well, speaking of another hidden gem on campus, the Purdue Musical Organizations. So Purdue doesn't have a music school. So you have a bunch of smart kids coming to Purdue, engineers that are wired in a certain way, that love music, want to continue singing, want to play in the band, whatever it may be. And that's why our All-American Marching Band is so good. They're not getting credit for it. They're doing it because they love it. And that's kind of how PMO worked as well. So I started as a freshman in the Glee Club. I performed in high school and wanted to continue that into college, and literally traveled the world with the Purdue Glee Club. Met my wife in the Purduettes. She was the manager of the Purduettes, and I was the manager of the Glee Club our senior year. And my closest friends now, we're all Glee Clubbers. It's essentially a fraternity in its own right. And we would perform 30 to 40 times a semester. Every weekend we were traveling the state at least.
Wow.
Spring break, fall break, go a little further. But and then we would sing at all commencements. That was when you guys graduated, the Glee Club sang all the commencements. It was, I watched every person graduate. It was miserable, but
it's a lot of graduations.
Yeah, it's cool to represent the university in that fashion. And we sang at President's Council events. And then the President's Council members would house us in their $1 million mansions in Naples. And crazy. The shoulders and the elbows we were able to bump into. Like, I sat at tables with CEO of John Deere and just crazy people that the average student wouldn't normally get to run into.
Yeah.
But, we performed all across the world, and then the pre-Christmas show every December as well. We probably some of my favorites. My senior year, we went to Poland, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia.
Oh, wow.
And sang. That was our international tour. It was incredible. But we went out to San Francisco and sang for a lot of people out there. We did Florida several times, St. Louis, Chicago. But honestly, some of my most favorite concerts we did were little tiny auditoriums in Argus, Indiana, or down in southern Indiana, in Jeffersonville and New Albany. And again, the cool thing was, for when you're a senior, if you can organize it, you get a home show. So we would go to the hometown of all of our seniors and perform in their high school.
Nice.
And you got to see towns. Well, they treated you like you're a star, athlete, like Devin Maccabee's treated in Boonville. That's how we were for the Glee Club. And we're like, no, we're just a bunch of dweebs. Like, you don't have to do it. No, it was.
But those smaller shows bring some of that intimate setting where it's close and you can see the reactions on everybody's face and stuff.
Packed house, and then they would make you food beforehand, and it was always whatever the town's food was. We had the steaks that literally, however we wanted it cooked ahead of time. It just was unbelievable.
That's
and
awesome.
we'd bring the Purdue buses down there, and people thought you were major celebrities. So
that's so cool.
Yeah, but the music we sang was fantastic. It was, if you ever have a chance to listen to the Glee Club, it's one of the best sounds you'll ever hear. I mean, we sang we sang with the IU Singing Hoosiers several times, and the Singing Hoosiers are a fantastic group, but they're all soloists. They're all music majors. They're really, really good at what they do, but they don't blend well because they all are soloists. And we would sing with them and blow them out of the water.
That's right. Way to sneak that in there.
Yeah. So it was a really cool 4 years. And if you ever have a chance to see the Glee Club or the Purduettes or the Handbells or the University Choir, go to the
Handbells are really cool.
Bells are cool, and people don't realize we have them either. So yeah, it's worth.
For the three of us and for anybody listening too, what's the best way to find out about those concerts? Because for myself, I'm located down in Jefferson, Indiana right now, so
there you go.
It'd be really cool to see a concert down here.
Purdue Alumni Club of Falls City, I think, whatever the Purdue Alumni Club down there brought us down to Jeffersonville, New Albany every year. We rotate high schools. I would go. The best way is to follow PMO on social media, Twitter and Instagram. They're really, really good about putting out their where they're going to be. I know the Glee Clubs, the Purduettes they went to Hawaii last spring break. The Glee Club's going out to San Francisco this spring break. So they were in New York. I mean, and it's all across the country too. So, but on a lot of weekends they were traveling in state.
Awesome, cool, good deal. So, of course, again, we've talked about how, while you're still at Purdue, you got involved with hosting at Ross Aid, and you talked about working your way up to Ross Aid. So it could be maybe you give insight into some of the other sports that you did as well. But for football specifically, what is a day in the life of Trevor Peters when you're being the in-game host? Because I've heard before you've talked about it being an all-day commitment, but I haven't heard much the breakdown of like, I show up at this time, spend 2 hours doing this, 2 hours doing this, and then the game happens, and then all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. So I started as a senior at Purdue. I just saw an ad that athletics had put out about the opportunity to host, and so I saw my junior year, my senior year. I did women's basketball. I did soccer, softball, and baseball. So I would a lot of those sports, and I would host, and then they typically had students be the host for football and men's basketball. Well, when I got the job at WLFI and I was staying in town, they had lost their student that was doing football. So they asked, and they didn't have anyone on the pipeline underneath. So they asked if I'd stay on and do football. My first football season was the year after I graduated. So it would have been the 2017 football season.
Okay.
And that was it was awesome. And so I've done it every year since. I got the 2018 was the year I got to meet Tyler Trent game when he was before he became the household name. I met him when he was camping out for the Michigan game, I believe.
Yeah.
Nice.
And got to meet him and knew the kid had a story. And that's when I think it was Mike Carmen at the JNC that discovered it and published the first story and everything. And I was working in media then, so I got to cover his story and everything. But so a typical Saturday is I get there about 3 hours before. So if it's a noon kickoff, I'm there by 9, and we have a camera meeting down in the control room for Ross A and for Mackey is in the basement of Mackey. There's a control room there, and the Hall of Music staff runs the jumbotron and runs the cameras on the field and on court. And so we have a camera meeting and go over what the run of show is. So the Chris Pelliadot and the team at Purdue Marketing and Fan Experience, they're awesome, and they are always thinking. I mean, you saw it with the Caleb First, Buddy the Elf stuff. That's all their team, and they're always thinking of new ways to incorporate fans and promos, things, giveaways, things like that. And so they're the ones that organize the competitions. It's really, really fun. I mean, the St. Elmo's cocktail eating contest is probably the shrimp cocktail eating contest, probably my favorite every year. They used to do the when they would put all the Purdue Pete's in the Leroy Keys, Drew Brees outfit, and have them run down the Legends race, they called it. There's just been a lot of cool things over the years that have been really fun. But yeah, so I get down and we have a meeting, the camera meeting, and then we go. I get on the field with about 23 on the clock before kickoff is my first hit, where it's just the live intro after the team runs off. After warm-ups, goes back in the locker room is when we start. And I typically have 2 or 3 hits per quarter in the media timeouts. And everything from this year there was the banana giveaway. There's the Meyer tailgate trivia, stuff like that. We record 2 things, the tailgate trivia and the item of the game beforehand. Those aren't live, but it really is a really cool opportunity that I don't take for granted. And the best part about the job, and I call it a job, it's not even a job. I do it. I do it like it's a blast. But the best part about it is getting to meet the students, because the Ross A Brigade this year specifically was unbelievable. The student leaders. When I was a student, the Ross A Brigade was awful.
It's terrible.
It wasn't even that we were in the field. It was that no one cared. The students didn't care. And they were giving away free tickets when I was there. But now it's like it is. the students have made that student section into a top 10 in the country.
Yeah.
And it's all because of those student leaders. And I get to know, it's fun. I get to know the kid. It's the same kids that sit in the front 3 rows every single game. And I get to know them and talk to them. And I see them when I saw them at the Big Ten championship and got to take pictures with them. I see them at the co-rec in the mornings when I go work out. They're good kids. And they really care about Purdue sports and making the environment as good as possible. So
good. And we're going to fit even more in there next year. So
even more. You're going to be relocating too.
Yeah. Yep. God bless Fresno State having to deal with that new student section at Stadium. Yeah.
Oh. Sure. It's time for another shot, by the way.
Oh. So, well, before we do this, because I'm not going to be able to talk, you guys go ahead. But I do have a caveat question to that. Dylan Coons, one of the guys that's usually with us.
Oh, yeah.
He also wanted to ask, kind of coming off my question, what is your favorite maybe in-game interview or like giveaway situation there? So,
well, my favorite thing we do every year is the St. Elmo's shrimp cocktail eating contest. But probably one of my all-time favorite. The rain games are always my favorite.
Really?
Because it is so miserable and everyone is so wet. And there was Eastern Michigan.
Oh, that game was awful.
2017, I think.
That game was awful for multiple reasons.
Yes, it was. The Minnesota game where it was dry until the fourth quarter. And we watched the cloud roll in, and then we all went into Mackey for an hour, and it was just like nonstop. And that was the Jawan Bentley pick 6.
Yep.
That game was wild. I mean, the Minnesota game, like last 2 years ago, but Illinois, the downpour where we lost in 2019, I think. Anyway, those are always just memorable games because of the weather. But I think the coolest memory I had was when I got to last year, so 2021. Illinois, I believe, when Drew Brees came back and the whole the 2000 team came back, and I got to interview him and Aiken Odell and all that. Those guys was just cool because I grew up watching them, and to get to meet Drew Brees was neat.
That's real.
They started doing the past 2 years where I get to interview the honorary captain. And just some of those, Matt White was so cool this year, Nick Hardwick, these legends that come back, and just getting to spend 5-10 minutes with them and introduce myself and shake Drew Brees' hand. You can't. Those are probably my favorite experiences.
Yeah.
We've had some bad ones too. I wasn't a huge fan of the Legends race because I was like, you need to put them on tricycles or something, you'd add another element to it because it was just the Purdue Peach jogging down the field and it got lame at times. There's been some ones that haven't come back, but it's fun.
I really like the carpool karaoke that was done this year. I thought that was really fun.
And Kicks for Cash is great. And
that's always a good one.
The kid that the first time we ever did that was Vanderbilt in 2018, I believe, 2019. And the kid was dressed up like a duck, nailed all 3, and made the broadcast coming out of it. And he won. They weren't giving away a car at that point. It was like $500. We haven't had anyone win the car yet, the 2-year car lease in the past 2 years. So I'm hoping we can get one eventually.
Nice.
Yeah. And then I think this was 2019 as well. I think it was I can't remember what year it was, the hot wing eating competition, and then the coaches versus the players in the hamster balls. Really good too.
Yes.
That was funny.
They're all those are always really good. They did one, I can't remember if this was basketball or football, where they cracked the egg on the head, like the one egg was real, one egg was not real.
I think it was basketball.
Yeah. Probably basketball. Then where the kids draw the
light draw.
Oh yeah. that one's hilarious.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, yeah, really cool. Thanks for letting us ask you all those questions, Trevor. And now we're going to kind of dive into or transition to talking a little bit about everything that's been going on since we last met here. I think it was December 20th, and there's been a lot going on.
A couple things.
Specifically, we'll start off with football. We'll just briefly, the Citrus Bowl happened. We don't have to talk about it too much, but there's still a lot of exciting stuff going on with football. And it's funny because this is the first time I can recall ever in my Purdue, I've been a Purdue fan for 20 plus years now, that there's been so much excitement going into an off season. Like even with Brom here, not that there was anything wrong with Brom's time here, but there was just not this level of excitement. And I think Coach Walters has really brought that, keeping up with not only the transfers that he's been able to bring in, like Hudson Card out of Texas, great get. I think we're all pretty excited to see how that translates onto the field, as well as the coaching staff that he's been able to compile here as well. And I just had that, and I think I accidentally exited out of it. But, guys like a strength and conditioning coach from Michigan, Kiero Small, I think that's a huge, huge addition to the team.
His name's a lie. He is not a small.
No, not a small human whatsoever. There's Graham Harrell on the offensive side of things, Kevin Kane defensively, and he's picking up guys from the SEC as well, guys from Arkansas, from Ole Miss. So pretty exciting stuff going into the year, and we're seeing all these recruits that are being offered and potentially coming to Purdue. I'm keeping an eye on that. I think I'm guessing he didn't pick Purdue. Did that wide receiver announce his pick today where he was going, that guy from like Hillsdale College?
Oh,
yes. I believe he picked Purdue, didn't he? Isn't that the picture we had in our thread?
Oh, I didn't see it today. I didn't hear anything about it. Awesome. Well, great.
That dude from Texas, Hudson Card dude. Yeah, I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, Hudson Card, I know he's committed, but there was a wide receiver out of like Hillsdale College. Like 6'4" guy. I didn't know that he had committed to Purdue, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
If that's the case,
I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
I think it's like Tesla or something like that. But that's been really cool. So, what have your guys' have you guys been feeling about football? Now that we're in the off season, now that we're kind of moving into the Walters area, # Walters wagon. It was said here first. How are you guys feeling?
I'm excited. I think that there's a little bit of a swagger to a program right now that not that we didn't have before, but at least it's a little bit more evident maybe this time around.
Yeah.
Walters is definitely 100% bought into this program. And it's really exciting to see. And he's bringing in, I think there's one coach over the age of 45, I think, out of the 7 coaches that have been hired, which I think is cool because you get that age gap that kind of still relates to those 18 to 23-year-olds, compared to the 60-year-old guys that kind of have to proxy out some of that experience. So no, I think I'm excited. I'm excited for next year. And I think, not that I think this necessarily will happen for Purdue, but I think Sonny Dykes and what he did at TCU should bring a lot of excitement to Purdue fans because anything can happen,
Still blows my
Especially for
mind.
a program like TCU that plays in the Big 12. It's not like they came out of a crappy conference or something. They play a lot of really tough teams.
Yeah, and it still blows my mind that Sonny Dykes played collegiate baseball, did not play football,
Right?
But then started coaching football afterwards. But yeah, Russ, Trevor, one of you guys, how are you feeling about the new coaching staff, the new regime coming in?
You go ahead, Trevor.
Well, I was able to. I attended the introductory press conference with Walters, and you could just feel the excitement and the swagger the guy has. The students, it seems like the students are going to buy in. Clearly, his athletes are. I'm pumped. I'll say this: I have. So my wife went to Gibson Southern High School in.
Oh, cool! Right down my neck of the woods. Yeah,
north of Evansville, and so Brady Allen was we knew about Brady Allen for 4 years before he committed, and I went down. We went down and watched him, and when I heard Braun was interested in him, I was ecstatic. The kid has a cannon of an arm. He's unreal. And then we watched him in the state championship game 2 years ago. But, yeah, so I have a signed Brady Allen football that my wife got me for Christmas because her uncle taught his econ class or something like that.
Nice.
Hey, my niece's husband is a big Purdue fan. We signed this ball for him, so he signed that when he was like 18, 17. I don't know if that's even.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
that's cool.
But anyway, I was ecstatic to see that he saw something in Walters that brought him back. Don't know what it was. Not sure. His dad told reporters down in Gibson County that he was a little upset with, I guess, with how some things that were moving slow, but whatever happened, he got interest. It looks like from Ole Miss and from a couple other places. Whatever it was, he's going to be he'll be our future. Whether it's next year, with him and Card, if they'll battle it out or what. But no matter what, it's going to be great to have two different options: a mobile quarterback and a guy that just can sling it downfield. So I'm excited. It's going to be awesome, and just the energy and. It's with the new stadium and everything. It's a new era. It's exciting.
So, and one thing, sorry, Russ, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so Trevor Peters talked Brady Allen into coming back. You heard it here first.
Yep,
you heard it here first. His connection got him back.
I'm tweeting that out now.
No, but what I was gonna say is that one thing that I really like about Walters is that he's very aware of like the urgency from the fan base, I'm sure the team as well, to get things going, to get the ball rolling, get moving, go. But he's also very aware of like, I want to do this and I want to do it right. So I'm going to take my time. I'm going to find guys that fit what I want to bring to Purdue. I want to bring that swagger. I want to bring excellence to Purdue. And so I think he's still moving at a good pace, but I think he's taking his time and he wants to do it right. And I commend him a lot for doing that and not rushing those things. Because it could be really easy to grab guys with nice names and, offer them and try to bring him in here super quick. But he's taking his time and he's putting together a staff of people that are hopefully going to work really together really well. You mentioned the players really like him. We have a friend that his alias is Jebediah on the team, and it was telling us that the players meeting, meeting coach and all the coaching staff and everything, that they're all, they all love the coaching staff. They're all super pumped up about all that. And so just seems like he really, really gets it. And it's just really a cool thing to hear. He's so calm, cool, and collected in interviews, talking about the team, talking about transfers and the NIL stuff. And he just seems like a guy that really gets it. And so I have hopes, and maybe it's just because he says a lot of really great buzzwords as well. But I have hopes that we'll break that 8 to 9 glass ceiling in the future. I don't know when it will be, but I feel like that can happen with a guy like Walters in here, who, man, he won me over the minute during that opening. I think it was his introductory press conference where he was like, "Yeah."
First thing out of his mouth, he's like, "Bring him any player back. If you wore the gold and black, you can come back whenever."
Yep.
That and I love that he was like, "I want my kids to tell people they're from West Lafayette." I thought that was awesome. That gave me goosebumps.
Yes.
So
there was nothing negative out of that introductory press conference. Like I was sold. I was like, okay, I'm ready. Let's do whatever we gotta do.
Yeah. I mean, he flipped somebody. I don't know if it was necessarily flipped. I think that Jamarian Harkless or Jakarian Harkless, the guy, what do they call him? The chop, out of
Auburn.
Yeah, I think he had an offer to Auburn, and I think Hugh Freeze maybe retracted that offer when he stepped in there. But big dude, had offers from a lot of other places as well, so that was great that he was able to bring him in. So obviously he's a guy of the people, the players. So yeah, really, really cool stuff with all that going on. And I guess there's some cool stuff going on with basketball. It's whatever. just a thing or two. Yeah. We were at the top. We were the kings of the castle for 4 straight weeks, which was really cool. And it started off with a tough game against Rutgers. Really tough Rutgers team. You know, they're ranked, I think, 3rd right now in Ken Palm in defense. Very lengthy team, and I've heard a lot. You know, just listening to people, that's a team that Purdue hasn't really come up against. A team with so much length and athleticism, like Rutgers. So how did you guys feel during the game? What were your guys' thoughts on the Rutgers game?
Go ahead, Russ or Trevor.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to finish up a couple of football thoughts too.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
But yeah, I think it's a really exciting time to be a Purdue fan. We keep saying that. We've been saying that pretty much since we got started, the beginning of football season. But we expected Braum to leave at some point. It definitely caught us off guard because it was almost like overnight that it happened. But we've also talked about, you know, and Trevor even mentioned it, that the things Bobinski's been doing and the hires he's been making have all been on point and have kept us successful as a program. And I think that it's also a Mitch Daniels, and it sounds like Mung Chang's going to continue that legacy of, you know, yes, we're an academic institution, but the success of sports drives the success of the institution as well. So, you know, it definitely seems like it's one of the best times to be a Boilermaker fan right now, that we're going to continue going the same direction that we've been going for the last 5 or 6 years. And once the dust settled and everybody was all, you know, mad at Braum for leaving, and we hired a guy with no head coaching experience, what are we doing? You know, the dust is settled now and people are ready to run through brick walls again for Purdue. So I'm definitely very excited about the changes with the football program. So, but with basketball, you know, I think I could echo most of the fan base in saying that was going to be a nervous game with Rutgers regardless, because, you know, flashback to a year ago when we were ranked number 1, you know, that Rutgers squad was the one that knocked us off. So, and it definitely, you know, it was, you know, some of the games we watched this year, we stayed close throughout the game. We're kind of waiting for that, you know, 8 to 10 run burst, and we're going to pull away and put this team away. But with Rutgers, it was almost like we've got to put them away, or they're gonna end up beating us at the end again. And of course, you know, y'all saw what happened. So
yeah, it felt like we in that second half, you know, played a lot better in that second half, pulled it together, because I think we were at one point, or maybe at halftime, down 10, or it was, you know, somewhere around there. They pulled it together in that second half, played hard, and it seemed like we would get to within 1. We were down by 1, we had the ball, and maybe we turned it over, we didn't execute on a bucket. That was still when we were kind of, you know, in the midst of that shooting struggle. But it just felt like we couldn't quite get there. There was always like that one thing that just pulled us back a little bit.
Yeah, and I definitely think that again, Painter said it either in the radio show or in post game. I can't remember, but it was I think it was the radio show yesterday. He said, you know, the only bad part to the offense is we're missing open shots. And and that tells me he's seeing the same thing I think we've talked about a few times, that, you know, in that Rutgers game, we make half of our misses. This game's not even close, you know, and 2 or 3 of the last couple games that have been close. But it seems like since the second half of Ohio State, we've really figured out that shooting issue, or at least making them. Because none of the shots were like bad bricks. It was like half an inch or an inch off from going in. It would rattle in and out. And I'm like, come on, man. But I think they're figuring it out, and the defense keeps us in it. I think that's something that we missed last year, and it's back to the thing we said all year. What does Purdue do when shots aren't going in?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I watched that game from Orlando with a bunch of other sad Purdue fans. But
what a day for that game to fall on too.
Yeah. That was a awful timing.
It was terrible. But I've been impressed. I mean, you see, Fletcher Lawyer has been clutch when he needs to be clutch. Braden Smith is carrying, him and Zach are carrying us right now. I mean, during the Penn State game, there was a time when, like late in the second half, when only 4 guys had scored. It was like 4 guys have scored this game. It was wild. Yeah. But no matter what, I think you're starting to see, like you said, I mean, our defense is carrying us. Ethan Morton has been strong.
Incredible.
next 3 games when he was slow to start the year, but he's come alive.
And Ethan's doing things that aren't going in the bucket. He's doing the defensive things, the rebounds, the assists.
The steal that sealed, that won us the game against Ohio State.
Huge.
That was amazing.
You see that, and then Brandon Newman coming off the bench, Caleb First. Our bench is strong. Trey Coffin-Wren's been
Phenomenal. Yeah,
phenomenal. So we're in the thick of it right now. But I'm so excited that we're not walking away from this season losing 4 of our 5 starters. We're going to be strong for a while, and that speaks to what Payne's building. And you saw some Twitter dude this yesterday put the whole thing about Painter being on the top of the list for Texas.
Oh yeah, no shot.
He's built a dynasty at Purdue. He's made it into one, and he's not leaving. And recruits are seeing it with Miles Colvin in here next year. This team's going to cook even more. So I'm enjoying it.
And catchings, that kid is nice.
Enjoying it now, but boy, am I excited for the next 3 years and beyond. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, the fact that potentially our entire starting lineup could come back if Zach decides to return, and nobody transfers out, could come back, and then you add in Miles, the athleticism of Miles Colvin Jr. I think it could just be insane. And these guys are just, especially the freshmen like Lawyer and Smith, they went into a very hostile away game environment. I don't care what anybody says, that was not a neutral site game whatsoever.
I'm glad the NCAA made that decision today.
Yeah, at Penn State, which just, I don't know, it was just, that whole situation is just kind of weird to me. But walking into that environment, I would say that's probably one of the more hostile environments they've played in this year. I know Nebraska was pretty intense, but in a game like that, coming off of 2 really, really close games, and one of my favorite plays that I don't feel like it's talked about enough. Fletcher hit a lot of great shots. He was balling. There's one move where he does like a crossover and he steps back and shoots the 3 right in that guy's eye. Oh my God. But whenever he dives for that loose ball to tip it up the court, and then I think it was Gillis or somebody else takes it down, for the counterattack, that is so huge.
He got laid out. He put his body on the line for that. He took a shot. Yeah.
And it reminds me of Braden Smith when he dove for that loose ball to tip it out to the other side of the court when I can't remember who we were playing. It might have been West Virginia.
West Virginia. I will say, and I agree with the Field of 68 had a clip today, and I know they're very hot and cold on Purdue, but I would agree that this was the most important week of the season since PK 85. To lose number 1 by 1 point at home and to turn around and go to 2 wildly hostile environments and pull out wins, one being close and one being as hostile as we'll probably see all year was really, really impressive.
Yeah, against top half of the Big Ten teams. Against teams that are probably going to make some noise come March.
Yeah.
So huge. Yeah, and I love that Trevor brought it up is, this is still a young team. This team's playing, we talk about Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer playing like seniors. Trey Coffin-Wren's a redshirt freshman. Caleb First is a sophomore. He did the elf thing, and I feel like he's been on campus for 8 years. He's like the next Robbie Hummel, but he's only a sophomore. He's got 2 more years still. It's crazy. It's crazy to think that this team, we're nitpicking on things, and they got the number 1, and they still could be the same team for the next 2 years.
And I'll also add in too that, and nothing to take away from last year's team, but this team seems way closer, way more tight knit, way more together. It's very much of everybody knows what everybody else's job is. And it's not, again, not taking anything away from last year's team, but it's not guys trying to do their own thing.
Yeah. And we gotta wonder, was Zach Edey's mom making meals for the team last year? That could be the difference.
It's a huge question.
Did you see it? That they just put that video out.
Yeah, that's what I saw.
The Journey video. Yep.
Yeah.
I love it. She really is. She needs the shirt that says Team Mom or something. She needs to walk in with the cooler full of Gatorade and snacks and orange slices for all the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we got a big week this week because we've got Nebraska at home,
Nebraska at home.
And then Michigan State on Monday.
Yep.
And I don't know who's after that, but it'll be another big week. But I think we play in a conference that it's never not a big week. It's always, especially, I've got a game on right now. Oklahoma's up by 1 on number 2 Kansas with 12 minutes to go. Like the parity in college basketball right now is so close that anybody can knock off any team regardless.
Yeah, I mean, I think you posted a second ago in our group chat that Michigan State just beat Wisconsin tonight, so that's a big win.
Yeah, it's
go ahead, though, Trevor. I think I cut you off there.
At some point, and I was looking at the rest of Houston's schedule the rest of the year. They play 2 quad 1 team, it's
Gonzaga out of the American.
Yes, and so if again, I saw a quote that if they lose any game the rest of the season, it's devastating and they drop substantially. So, and they still got 12 games left, whatever. So we the opportunity, just because we're not number 1 doesn't mean we're not the strongest team in the country. And I truly believe that. And whatever, if we get to March and we're ranked 3, 4, and we have the number 1 seed in the East or whatever, we'll be all right. We'll be fine.
Just worried about seeding for March, not about AP polls.
Yeah, absolutely. What was I going to say here? I had a thought. I think it escaped me though. So if somebody else wants to add anything else to it, that'd be great.
I was going to just agree with Trevor that we can almost forget about the AP poll now. It stinks that we lost the number 1 ranking, but Houston's probably going to hang on to it for a while. And even if they falter, Kansas has become a media darling again. UConn's story is up there. Even Alabama. All we got to do is worry about taking care of business in the Big Ten. And even if we, end up, with a 4-loss, 5-loss conference record, the number of quad 1 wins and the resume we'll have put together can still put us on the 1 line.
Yeah.
And one of the regionals is Louisville again. So we can go turn the Yum Center into Mackey South again and try to get to Houston. So,
and kind of on that same point that Trevor brought up about Houston, if they lose one, it's absolutely catastrophic to their chances. We saw this week, we lost to an unranked Rutgers team, won 2 other good games in the week, and only dropped 2 spots. I mean, I think we play in such a strong conference right now that a loss isn't as catastrophic as it could be for some other programs.
Yeah. And it's 1 loss. Like we're sitting at 15-1 right now, and it's by 1 single point as well. I think it just stung a lot because it was in Mackey, and Mackey's like sacred ground. We don't lose in Mackey.
It stung a lot for me because it was Rutgers again.
Yeah,
it could have been Michigan State. It could have been anybody, but being Rutgers again, I was like, gosh dang.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a bad day in general. You start the day off with the Citrus Bowl, and then you turn on the pregame coverage, and all they're talking about is how Rutgers knocked us off last year as number 1, and it's all that they talk about during the cast and everything. It was just like writing on the walls, like when for the NFL, in the NFL, for example, I'm like sometimes a conspiracy theorist with that stuff. I feel like some things are just rigged. And when the Vikings were down by 33 to the Colts at halftime, they kept talking about nobody's ever come back from such a deficit. No one could ever do it. I go, I'm putting $5 on the comebacker right now. And they ended up, it was like a plus 5,000. So it was a nice payout.
Yeah.
But
almost unheard of, like a Cowboys playoff win.
Right.
Oh, did I say that out loud?
Unnecessary shot, but no.
Block the star there. Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead and cover that up. Just a really, Russ, you said it earlier. We've been saying it all year. It's such an exciting time to be a Boilermaker. I think this is what, in those early 2010s seasons, football and basketball, this is kind of what we hoped and dreamed and knew that Purdue athletics could be. This, we're turning that page, we're turning that corner into we're a powerhouse in basketball. I'll just go ahead and say that. And we're turning that. I think we're taking steps to get there in football. I don't, maybe powerhouse is a strong word, but we're taking steps to be a strong, consistent team in football. So just a super exciting time. Just want to say, we'll go ahead. Does anybody have any final thoughts before I wrap us up here?
I'll echo Trevor's thoughts, kind of going along with what you said, that The unsung hero of the athletic program is Bobinski, and that dude doesn't get enough credit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Trevor, we just want to thank you so much for coming on here tonight, man. It was a great conversation. Loved to not only hear your perspective on just being a Boilermaker through and through, growing up and going to Purdue, but just hearing about the media aspect of things and stuff not a lot of people know about. It was really cool to hear about all that, your experiences while you were at Purdue. Your thoughts on basketball and football, great as well. So appreciate your time. We appreciate you being on here tonight. For everybody tuning in, we appreciate you as well. This has been a really fun episode, even though we've been having to drink hot sauce throughout the entire thing. We've made it through. And super exciting stuff. We're not going to go ahead and we're not going to say who our guest is yet next week, but we will drop some hints. And I think that can really help narrow it down. So if you look at the silhouette that we posted on our Twitter this past week, as well as these two hints here, he was drafted in our football players draft. If you go back and watch that episode, you can kind of narrow it down with just that list in general. He was drafted in our football players draft of our Mount Rushmore, who our offensively skilled players would be, which I think I just gave away a bigger clue there. And then currently plays in the NFL as well. So those are the two hints. We are absolutely stoked for that guest next week as well. But he's got big shoes to fill after having Trevor Peters on here. Trevor, thank you so much for being on here. Everybody watching, boiler up, hammer down, and go Boilers.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely.
Peace.